My husband took his coworker on our anniversary trip while I stayed behind to care for my sick mother. I served him divorce papers at dinner, and now he's losing it all. I by no means notion I'd be in this example, but here I am. My call's Ava. I'm 27, and I've been married to John, 28, for 3 years. We met lower back in college once I was reading training and he turned into running in the direction of his regulation degree. It became a pretty complicated romance, and after a few years of dating, he proposed. Everything regarded perfect. Our wedding ceremony became stunning, and the early years of our marriage were everything I could have asked for. We were that couple, usually guffawing, supporting each other, and speaking about the future. But over the past year or so, matters commenced to shift. John had become extra and greater obsessed with his job at this massive law firm. I get it, he's driven, and I've continually prominent that about him. However, these days it felt like he became married to his paintings, not me. At the start, I attempted to be understanding. I knew being a lawyer changed into stressful, so I made excuses for his past due nights, the dinners he missed, and the weekends he spent inside the office. I thought it changed into a segment, something temporary, and that we would pop out of it more potent. I even started out planning a unique excursion for our anniversary to help us reconnect. I hoped it would be a way to relight what we had lost. Then, about 6 months in the past, John started speaking about this new rent at his firm, Molly, 25F. She became young, bold, and according to him, a breath of sparkling air inside the workplace. He said they worked well together and would jump ideas off each other like magic. I did not think a good deal of it at the beginning. I've never been the jealous kind, and I trusted John absolutely. However, as the months went on, John seemed to be spending more time at work and with Molly. He dropped her name into conversations casually, like, Molly thinks we have to take a specific method with this situation, or Molly made a super point within the assembly nowadays. At the start, I shrugged it off, figuring he became simply enthusiastic about work. However, then I began to word modifications in him. He began dressing better for work, going to the gymnasium greater regularly, and he'd be glued to his phone even when we had been purported to be spending time together. I'd ask him what he became doing, and he'd continually say, just work stuff. I confronted him once, jokingly asking, need to I be concerned approximately, Molly? He laughed it off and said I turned into being ridiculous. However, something inside me instructed me there was greater to this than only a harmless paintings dating. Around this time, our very own relationship commenced to become worse. We stopped happening dates, and our conversations have become robotic, all approximately payments, schedules, and everyday logistics. There was no spark, no excitement, and worse, no intimacy. I attempted to carry it up, however, each time I did, he brushed me off, pronouncing he changed into simply pressured from work. I turned into affected person for some time, questioning things could get better on their own, but the more time surpassed, the extra remote he became. He began running even later, and whilst he was home, he was distracted, scrolling through emails or texting on his phone. I knew something turned into incorrect, but I did not recognize the way to fix it. Whenever I attempted to talk to him, he'd tell me I was overreacting and that everything was high quality. I desired to accept as true with him, but deep down, I knew something had modified. Then there was Molly, with her bubbly personality, who seemingly made John's work life easier. I commenced noticing that on every occasion John noted her, he had this appearance I cannot describe, but it made my belly turn. The very last straw came when he ignored our date night time to wait some work event with her. I attempted to talk to him approximately it, however, he insisted I was imagining things, that she changed into just a colleague. But I knew higher. I sooner or later faced him without delay, asking if something was taking place between them. He checked out me like I had simply accused him of murder. Are you serious? Molly is just a pal. You are being paranoid. I desired to agree with him, I actually did. However, there had been too many symptoms. So, I thought perhaps a romantic getaway could convey us again together. Our anniversary was coming up, and I planned a beautiful holiday to the mountains, just the two of us, no distractions, no paintings, no Molly. I turned in to decided to store our marriage. But just as we had been packing our bags, I got the worst information feasible. My mother fell seriously ill and turned into hospitalized. I was devastated, but I instructed John he could still cross on the vacation, that it might be precise for him to loosen up whilst I stayed at the backup to attend to my mother. He became hesitant, but when I insisted, he agreed. I notion it would be a risk for him to clean his head, and when he came lower back, we could communicate approximately the whole lot. I trusted him to make the right selections whilst he became away. The first 2 days of the experience, we texted and FaceTimed like ordinary. However, then matters commenced to get peculiar. He became remote once more, handy as sending brief, indistinct replies and frequently taking hours to reply. I chalked it up to him trying to relax, however, something simply failed to sit right with me. Then, considered one of my friends, who became additionally traveling inside the identical vicinity, sent me a picture. It turned into John with Molly at the restaurant we had reservations for. I could not believe my eyes. He had taken her to the vacation that became supposed to be for us, our anniversary journey. While I became returned domestic, worried, ill approximately my mom, and holding out hope that this trip would help restore our marriage, he turned into there, playing the romantic getaway with her. I changed into crushed. Since he's been returned, I have not confronted him yet. I truly don't even know what to say. I've been playing it again and again in my head, trying to discern out how to take care of this. A part of me wants to scream at him, throw his things out, and report for divorce. However, another part of me wonders if I'm overreacting, if maybe there is a reasonable reason behind all of this, though I doubt it. I haven't told anyone besides my pleasant pal, who is urging me to go away him. After stewing in my emotions for days, I in the end decided to confront John. I rehearsed what I would say over and over in my head, imagining every viable reaction he could have. Would he apologize, deny the whole thing, or worse, the fuel light led me to wonder if I was overreacting. The tension was eating me alive, and I knew I could not hold off any longer. I picked a Saturday night while we were both domestic. I wanted to do it in person, no manner was I going to let him wiggle out of this over text. He was sitting on the sofa, glued to his phone as ordinary when I came in and sat across from him. "John, we need to talk." He seemed up, amazed by the seriousness in my tone. "What's up?" I took a deep breath and went for it. "I know about Molly. I understand you took her on the anniversary trip." His face went light for a second. He looked like he may deny it, but then he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Ava, it's not what you think." I scoffed. "Really? Because what I think is that you took your work wife on a romantic holiday that was supposed to be for us, our anniversary trip." He shook his head. "It wasn't romantic. She was having a hard time at work, and I thought it would be nice for her to get away." I could not believe what I was hearing. "So you decided to play hero and take her on our trip? Did you even consider how that might look? How that could make me feel?" "I didn't plan it like that," he said defensively. "You told me to go. I didn't want to cancel, and it just happened." "Just happened, did it? Just happened that you were holding hands in the photo my friend sent me? Did that just happen too?" He stared at me, at a complete loss for words. He knew he was caught. After our war of words, John left the house, saying he wanted time to think. That was fine by me. I wanted time to process. The betrayal felt like a slap in the face, and the longer I sat with it, the angrier I became. I wasn't just going to sit around and be disrespected like this. If he wanted Molly, he could have her, but I wasn't going to make this easy for him. I called my attorney the next morning. I did not tell John about it yet, but I knew I needed to start preparing for the worst. I wasn't going to be one of those women who stood around hoping their husband would change after such a blatant betrayal. I needed to protect myself. A few days later, I asked John to meet me for dinner at a first-class restaurant. I thought perhaps being in a public place might keep things calm. He showed up looking nervous, possibly expecting another argument. I, on the other hand, was calm. I had already made up my mind about what I was going to do. Once we were seated and had ordered, I slid a manila envelope across the table toward him. "What is this?" he asked. "Divorce papers," I said flatly. "I've already spoken to a lawyer." John's face became a color of red I'd never seen before. "Ava, are you serious? You'll throw away our marriage over one mistake?" "One mistake?" I almost laughed. "You've been emotionally absent from this marriage for months, John, and then you took her on our anniversary trip. I don't know how you define mistake, but that's not something I can forgive." He looked around the restaurant, probably hoping people weren't listening, but I didn't care. "Ava, please, let's just talk about this. You can't seriously want a divorce." "I didn't want this," I said, "but you've given me no choice. I'm not going to be the second option in my own marriage." That night, John tried calling me repeatedly, but I didn't answer. I was done talking. He'd made his choice, and I was making mine. I called my best friend, who immediately came over with wine and ice cream, and we spent the night going over every detail of the confrontation. By the time John got home, I had locked the bedroom door and fallen asleep. I could hear him pacing in the hallway, probably debating whether or not to knock, but he didn't. I guess he realized it was too late for that. Since then, things have been tense. John is still staying in the house, but we barely communicate. He keeps trying to apologize, to tell me that he made a mistake and that he doesn't want to lose me. But I'm not sure I care anymore. It's been 2 weeks since I handed John the divorce papers at the restaurant, and a part of me feels like I've taken back control. However, another part of me is devastated by how everything has crumbled so quickly. After that night, John tried to act like nothing had happened. He is still living in the house, which makes everything 100 times more awkward. We barely talk, and when we do, it's strained. I don't even know how to describe it. He's either trying to express regret and guilt-trip me into taking him back, or he's sulking like a child. I'm not giving in, even though I've made it clear that this is what I want. But I don't think he fully believes me. I met with my lawyer again to start the formal process. We discussed dividing up our belongings, which hasn't been easy. We don't have children, fortunately, but we do have a house, cars, and joint savings. John is trying to drag it out, though, because he keeps saying he wants to make things right and that we don't need lawyers. I also found out that John hasn't been entirely honest about our finances. While reviewing our accounts, I noticed some unusual withdrawals and fees I didn't recognize. It turns out he's been buying Molly things, dinners, trips, even her apartment rent on a couple of occasions. He was basically funding her lifestyle while claiming they were just friends. I was furious when I discovered this, but at this point, it just confirmed what I already knew. What's even more frustrating is that now that I've served him with divorce papers, John is trying to win me back. He's pulling out all the stops, flowers, love letters, promises to be a better husband. It would be almost laughable if it didn't hurt so much. A few days ago, he sat me down and told me he's cut off contact with Molly, that she meant nothing, and that he only realized how much he loves me after I gave him those papers. He actually cried, something I've never seen him do before. It was hard not to feel something, but at the same time, I couldn't shake the betrayal. I don't think he really gets how deeply he hurt me. It's not just about Molly, it's about the months of neglect, the lies, and the fact that I felt like a ghost in my own life. My marriage for so long, I told him that I couldn't forgive him and I still want the divorce. He looked devastated, but I had to stand my ground. He asked if we could go to counseling, but really I don't see the point. I feel like we're way past the point of solving something. Of course, the fallout hasn't been limited to just John and me. Our families are now concerned, and it's been a huge mess. My parents are furious with John. They never appreciated how remote he had become over the last year, but this entire situation has pushed them over the threshold. My mother keeps calling me to make sure I'm okay, and she's already told John he's no longer welcome at family events anymore. I didn't expect her to go nuclear like that, but I appreciate the support. Then again, John's own family, well, that's another story. His mom called me last week, begging me to reconsider. She said that marriages go through difficult patches and that we just need to work through it. She even had the nerve to suggest that I was overreacting. I couldn't believe it. I told her that if she wanted to take sides, she could go ahead and support her cheating son, but I wasn't going to be guilted into staying in a broken marriage. Then there's the whole Molly scenario. Word has gotten around at John's law firm, and now people know about their little fling. Some of John's coworkers, who have met at social events over the years, have reached out to express their shock and sympathy. It turns out Molly isn't exactly popular at the workplace. There are rumors that she's been inappropriately close to other male coworkers before, and now people are gossiping about her and John. I've heard that Molly has been avoiding the office ever since the news broke. Speaking of Molly, from what I've heard, things between her and John have cooled off considerably. He's been avoiding her ever since the divorce papers were served. I think he realizes now what a mess he's made, but I also think he's not fully ready to let go of her. There's been no grand breakup between them, but I can tell John's trying to figure out what to do. I've started looking for a new place to live. I need to get out of this house. Being here, surrounded by memories of what used to be, is suffocating. Each corner of this house reminds me of a time when I thought John and I were happy. Now, it seems like a monument to all the lies and broken promises. Meanwhile, John seems to be unraveling. He's still going to work, but he's a shell of the person he was once. Some of his friends have told me that he's been distant and distracted, and there's even talk that his performance at the firm has taken a hit. I don't take any pleasure in this, but I'm not surprised. You can't live a double life without it eventually catching up to you. It's clear that his relationship with Molly wasn't worth the cost he's paying. I think he's starting to realize that, but it's too late for me. He's tried to talk to me a few more times, but I've been firm in my decision. I deserve better than this. It's been 3 months since I served John with divorce papers, and things have only gotten more complicated. I thought I was making progress moving on from the betrayal, but now everything feels like a big mess. When I first served the divorce papers, I thought it'd be a straightforward process. We didn't have kids, and the property was fairly easy to divide. But, of course, John had to make everything more difficult. After trying to win me back failed, he's now contesting almost everything: our house, the cars, even our joint savings. His lawyer has been a nightmare. Yes, he hired one because divorce isn't his cup of tea. They're fighting tooth and nail to reduce what I get in the divorce. The worst part is John is trying to act like I'm the one being unreasonable. He's even hinted that if I drop the case, we could start over and work through this. He doesn't seem to understand that we're beyond the point of reconciliation. What really set me off was when he tried to claim that the house should be his because he's the primary breadwinner. Never mind the fact that I contributed just as much financially when I was working, or that I sacrificed my career for the sake of our marriage. His entitlement is unbelievable. My lawyer has been great, though. She's helped me gather evidence of John's infidelity, and we're using that in the divorce proceedings to fight for a fair division of assets. I've also found out that John has been funneling money into a secret account, which he claims is for work expenses. Needless to say, we're digging into that too. Mediation attempts have completely failed. John's still clinging to the hope that I'll back down, but I'm not going to let him bully me out of what's fair. Every time we have a meeting, it's like a battleground, and I can see the frustration on his face when he realizes I'm not budging. While John's dragging out the divorce, things at his law firm are falling apart. Word of his affair has spread like wildfire, and it's causing a lot of stress. I heard from mutual friends that some of his colleagues are questioning his judgment, especially considering Molly has a bit of a reputation for getting too close to the men she works with. John's bosses aren't happy about the drama either. Apparently, they've had clients ask if John's personal life is affecting his work, which isn't a good look for the company. There are even rumors that John's position could be in jeopardy if this gets any worse. He might face professional consequences he never saw coming. It's ironic, really. He gave up his marriage for Molly, and now he might lose his career too. As for Molly, she's jumped ship. I found out she transferred to another firm after the gossip about them became unbearable. I guess she didn't want to deal with the fallout either. I'm not sure what's going on between her and John now, but from what I hear, their relationship isn't the fairy tale he imagined. While John's world is crumbling, I've been trying to rebuild mine. I moved out of our house a month ago and found a small apartment in the city. It's been strange adjusting to life on my own, but in a way, it's been liberating. I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells anymore, and the space has allowed me to focus on myself for the first time in a long time. But it hasn't all been smooth sailing emotionally. I'm still a wreck. Some days I thought I'd be farther along in the recovery process, but there are times when the betrayal hits me out of nowhere, and I just break down. I've been trying to push through it, going to therapy, journaling, leaning on friends, but I won't lie, it's been harder than I expected. The thing that's really shaken me is John's own family. After months of silence, his mother reached out to me again. She was polite, but I could tell she was struggling. She told me that John's falling apart and asked if I'd consider talking to him again, even just to give him some closure. I didn't know how to respond. A part of me felt sorry for her, but another part of me was furious that she could even ask me that after everything her son put me through.